Hey, peace and blessings, family. How are you this Tuesday morning? Happy Traditional Tuesday, family. Okay, so, y'all. A lot of great testing this morning and working on a bunch of stuff. And so, happy Traditional Tuesday. So, Traditional Tuesday was something that was brought to me by a dear friend of mine who talked about ways that we can reclaim our African self, if you will. So, I'm really big on creating traditional spirituality and the whole nine. I'm so big on that. So for me, that was, it is an honor to always do these lives. So today I'm interviewing a queen mother. I'm very, very excited to be interviewing and getting wisdom and knowledge from this elder. So let me get her on here and then we're going to get it in. So let me get her in here. So this is Iya Fayomi. I'm gonna make sure I'm saying it right when she gets on here because I hate messing up people's names because people mess up my name all the time. So, which is okay. I don't get upset about it, but let's see, y'all. Let's see if we get this queen on here. I'm so excited. This queen mother. Yeah, let's see before I start adding people. Peace, cuz.
Okay.
Hey. Okay, I'm so excited. I love when we work out the kinks and stuff. You may have to tilt your camera down a little bit so we can see your beautiful full face. There you go. That's even better.
Okay, let me see what I'm doing here.
All right, take your time.
Okay. Let me see if I can put it up on something else.
Okay.
Because we're doing all this technical stuff.
Right on.
Oh, so I got a book down here somewhere.
Good. I love it.
Oh, it's sweet. Like I said, I had to go feed Aisha.
That's right.
Baba said, you didn't do anything for me this morning. I said, oh, I'm so sorry.
I love it.
I know better.
That's a great teachable moment in itself, you know?
Yes. Okay. Can this work? Because I don't have. Okay. Let me try this.
Okay.
All righty. Okay. All right. Well, either way, I'm going to have to do a one-hander.
I got you. No worries.
Okay.
So, first of all, give me the complete pronunciation of your name.
Okay. And title too? All that stuff?
Yes.
Okay. I am the Iya Fayomi Falade Awurani. That's the full name, full everything. And
what
title.
What does it mean?
Well, the title itself means EIBA is in many instances it's a bony title, a bony society title. But this title actually came out, it's a world title that came out of Ile-Ife, Nigeria, Osun State, which is overall priest in the country and in Nigeria and in the world. So it's a world title. So what it actually means is she is the mother who teaches children how to survive and live.
Right on.
So literally that's what I do, is that not only as a counselor and a teacher, but the children are not only my spiritual children, but anyone that comes to me for help. And my job is to teach them how to survive in this world, but also how to live in this world, because they're two different, specifically different things.
Right on.
Okay. So pretty much, and I take it seriously. So I've been in the tradition since I was a child. I came in when I was 14.
Wow.
So I went through the whole early 60s from, well, I was born in Chicago. So
Town.
When they first started I can tell you that I was around when they started Kwanzaa at the White Elephant. When they had when Chief Ajamo and the Oyatunji village hadn't even been started.
Wow.
Okay, they were working out of a temple called Iya Fayomi in Chicago on 31st Street and South Park. So it wasn't even a King Drive then. So we're talking about 1964.
Mm.
Okay. So with that, that was my introduction into Ifa and Orisha. In and out, in and out. But that was the introduction, and running into people who had an understanding of why I could see things before they happen. Because the church kept telling me there was something wrong and I might be talking to the devil. And
Mm.
I knew that wasn't right. So I found another way, and I kept seeking and finding God that looked like me.
Right on. Right
And
on.
that really was the movement forward into it. Um, Ultimately, I started to learn about Orisha. I started to learn about Ifa. But like with all things perfect and not perfect in this world and in this country, you
Mm-hmm.
go into problems that come from family and others that are dealing with, well, she's not following our tradition. She's not following this, so it must be wrong.
Mm.
So it was a lot of different types of issues that came along with that, but you persevere and you continue to move forward. So for me, that's what I did. I found that I enjoyed the drums. I enjoyed finding a connection and an understanding of what Ifa really was. Then I learned about the encoded messages and
Mm.
the signatures of Ifa and how to do divination, how to worship, because a larger part of what was being done at that time was about the worship. Um, it wasn't just, well, I'd say, a magic hat where you can pull a rabbit out or a genie who's going to grant you anything that you want. It really was about understanding the culture, the language, clothing, food, all of the things that make what Ifa is a lifestyle. And as a lifestyle, it teaches you about family. It teaches you how to heal your family from the traumatic impacts of day to day life. Ifa also teaches you science and music and other things. And so these were the things that I started to learn along the way. So going on from there, eventually I left Chicago
Mm-hmm.
and I went to live in Ghana for a while, still looking for
Wow.
Ifa. So I stayed in Accra. I also stayed in Pequasi. I stayed in Adenta, which is a suburb right outside of Accra. And I was staying with my nephew and his family, who were Hebrew Israelites.
Mm.
And with that, we ran a restaurant there. And with that restaurant, you learn a lot of things about the culture there. Ifa was in Ghana, but it was called
Mm-hmm.
Fa.
Fa.
So, right, or Afa. But they trace their roots not only from there, but all the way back to Ile-Ife. So somehow it's the connection still kept going. I had not yet been to Nigeria yet, but I was in Africa. So after which I came back to the United States and I left and went to LA.
Mm.
And that's where I met Fashina Falade and eventually became initiated to Ifa and Shango. Prior to all of that, I also had a Gungun initiation too, but that was with Shangadini Fatunji in Chicago.
Mm.
So, thus the quest came where I needed to actually learn more. And leaving LA, I went to San Bernardino, and then from San Bernardino, I came out to Phoenix. But this time, I'm traveling back and forth to Nigeria.
Mm.
And with that, I was working with the Awarani family, with Awatunde Awarani and his father and the whole family. And that's how that connection continued. And I found that there was so much more to develop in myself spiritually, and so much more to develop with my family and others that I was working with. I found the need for me, it was bridging information from Lukumi and bridging information from other traditions. But I found that bridging was not enough.
Mm.
You There's always, like with denominations in sects, whether it be Islamic or Hebrew or Buddhist,
Mhm.
there's different sects that you come up with, that denominations that have different ways of wanting to function, and how they learn to worship God. So, in other words, we in Christianity, you have Baptists, you have the Catholic, you have Methodists. Those are denominations, but they all worship God, their God, the God of their understanding. And the same thing with you have Sufi, you have in different sects of Islam, you have different understandings and denominations there. Buddhists the same way. In our tradition of Ifa, you got Lukumi, you got Candomblé, you have traditional Ifa, but they still worship Oludumare and Ifa and
Mm.
Orisha. So with that, there's only the difference of how you see it. Not necessarily, it's not different gods, it's just different systems of how you approach worship.
Right on.
And that's it. Because the foundation is always going to be Oludumare and Ifa. Ifa is always going to be 256 encoded messages. And Shango is going to be Shango. Oshun is going to be Oshun.
Mm.
Olokum's going to be a Lokum. Rumula is going to be a Rumula. Gungun is going to be a Gungun. You got these different, the differences. And unfortunately, we don't always see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the line, common sense has not died. We'll get there.
I agree. I agree. Let me ask you this: when you said you were 14 years old and you came across this information, what was that moment like? Like, I mean, where were you? Were you like on your way to church, or I mean, like,
I had
what was that?
ran away from home. I'm gonna tell you the deep, dark, dirty secret. I had ran away from home and I was mad at my mom. And I was in the park on 31st and the lakefront. And I'm hearing drums rolling, I'm like the bongos, or and I love to dance. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me go down here. And I kept following the sound of the drums. When I got to this doorway where the drums, I was seeing all these people in dashikis, and they're dancing, and in the door was a black rooster hanging and swinging back and forth. And I'm like, whoa, you know. Then I just walked past it, and didn't even think about it, and got inside and started dancing too. And they were actually doing a drum for Shango. And that's how I actually went and found this in 1964. 64, 65, actually, 65.
I know. So you have a question in the room. Dear Sister Jasmine says, peace and love. What are the differences between candomblé, lokumi, santeria, vodun, and hoodoo? That's a lot, sister. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all,
I love a great
again, these
question.
are denominations, if you want to call it denominations, but they're different sects. Candomblé, you think of it like this. In 1504, the slave ships came first to Brazil. The slaves that were the captives that were on that slave were placed in Brazil's captivity. The candomblé system came out of them synchronizing the tradition that they came with their religion to the Catholic saints so that they would be able to worship up under and not be discovered, because it was you could die. You could get
Mm.
killed for practicing, speaking your own vernacular and practicing your own religion. Now, think from there that from Brazil, you come up north and you start going across the water into the islands. Because what were they doing? They had plantation owners coming in from where? Europe and other places of Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and they were setting up plantations for profit. So they needed free work in order to make profit. These same slaves are being shipped out into those specific areas as well. So you'll get to Cuba, you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
Lucumí. You're going to have Shango Baptist in Trinidad. You're going to have Obeah in Jamaica and other islands. Okay, in Puerto Rico, you're going to have Santeria. So you're going to have all these different sects of this tradition,
I get that.
but they're following the pathway of the people that it originated from.
Got that.
And as they get there, this is how it happens. So it is about those particular sects.
Right on.
If
Right
I
on.
find a better word for it, I'll use that.
Okay. That's a great way you explained that. It's almost like saying, I remember once when I was in Cuba, talking to Gloria Orlando, and I asked her what I thought that what was her different. What did she think the difference was between African Americans and Afro Cubans? And she said, you only have to look at your colonizer,
Mm-hmm.
and that made so much sense. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because we do have these great commonalities, but you could also see, you know what I'm saying? Like what you
right.
talk about the influence of being able to survive your oppressor.
Mm-hmm. And that's literally what we were doing. We found different ways. The drums were our communication device of being able to get messages across. And that was a common denominator. And so, like, yeah, it was the colonizer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in Brazil, and also remember that it also went into Uruguay, Argentina, Venezuela,
Mm-hmm.
um, Peru, wherever there were black folks, the tradition went there. But it still came out of West Africa. It still came from Yoruba land, and it went into, and you had Ifa in Benin, Ghana, Togo, all these other places still have some form of it. And then let's not forget that then you also had captives that came out of Cameroon, came out
Mm-hmm.
of the Congo. Okay. So these traditions also intermingled as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If we think about even with a gungun, you have a gungun masquerade with different systems. Okay, or different people. Igbo have masquerades. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a language difference. That's all. Oops.
That's okay. Where would you recommend someone if, because I do a lot of these interviews and I always get this question, where would you
Mm-hmm.
recommend someone starting to gain more of an understanding of African spirituality?
Okay.
I always get that question.
All right. One of the things that I look at is finding knowledgeable people, and nowadays most people go to the internet. Unfortunately and fortunately, I think that it's hard to find different um churches, different edifices, because usually they're in houses. But
Mm-hmm.
if you another place too is colleges. If you have an African American studies on college campus, that's how I would find things. If I'm
Mm,
moving to a new city, I go to the African American Studies department at a university and see who they are, who do they know outside of the school. And you'll find a lot of educators that are also in this tradition. So that's another way of finding it. Books and other things, I'm real careful about books because
mm,
there's good information and there's erroneous information.
mm-hmm.
And so I don't always recommend books, but like if you find someone, you want to make sure that they have good character, that they are knowledgeable, um, and that they're not taking advantage of a person. Okay. So, and that's something that everyone have, no matter where you're going, no matter what the tradition is, you have to be on your common sense P's and Q's because you want to know about a tradition. Okay. You want to learn about it. But that having a book is not always everything that you're going to learn about that system.
Right on.
This is an oral tradition. And an oral tradition simply means that you are going to pass on information from one person to another orally. And so you want to be able to, that person needs to be able to give you information that's viable, that's going to help you change your life. Because if you're coming to look for a Ifa or a Risha, you're coming to for a spiritual understanding. There might be a push in you from your ancestors that are trying to get you to see something different. And this is a system that will uplift you and help you to develop good character. And that's really what it's designed to be for, is to help you have a closer relationship with Olodumare and more your own Ori, your own soul. Who are you? What is this soul's journey supposed to be? Where are you supposed to go in this? If it can't help me to live a better life and be a better person, a compassionate and kind person, someone who's going to do good in the world, what is that legacy? If it's
Mm,
just a lot of people like it because it is very powerful and it is very metaphysical.
mm-hmm.
So they want the power. And it is powerful. And you're supposed to have power in this. But it's to empower your life and to make changes in how you think. And if your thinking is skewed, then you're going to have problems in life. You're not going to be able to work properly or to have good relationships. IFA will help you in those areas. It will help you to develop your own character and to be self analytical enough and to take criticism or to take instruction. Okay. IFA is going to tell you about your lifestyle, it's going to tell you about the goodness that things should be in your life,
Mm,
following your destiny. Okay. This is a major thing about following your destiny. What is your destiny? Is it to be um, wealthy? Is it to be a helper, a healer? Is it to be a teacher? Whatever it is, it's going to teach you about that particular task in your life and how to make things move forward in your life. Your children, if you're even supposed to have children, if you will have children, it will tell you about that. If you're going to have a husband, if it's going to, or a wife, or if it's going to be in a time that's going to be later in life. Sometimes it might, all your good luck might come when you're a kid and in your teenage years and early 20s, or sometimes you might not have all of the best things of your development until you're much older. That's what EFA does. So it's still about changing how you think and learning how to work with Ori.
So I know that you're not really big on, I mean, not big, but understanding about the books. But somebody did ask a question, are there any books, though, you do, that you could refer? Any books in particular?
I have bunches of stuff. Okay. One thing is you have okay, Chief Farmers books. These you can find, most of this you can find on Amazon. Chief Farmers book, which gives you the fundamentals of the Yoruba religion as a starter. That's a great primer. You have books to teach you how to pray. Iwure is one by Fakayode, Fayomi Falade. You have the Sacred Ifa Oracle by Baba Pega, which is really the text of, or the 256 Odu. You have Pupola, his work that's out here. Um, when we start looking at other writers, there's a lot of good writers out. Um, but again, they are, they're working in the framework of the 256 Odu.
Mm.
For Orisha work, um, there's a lot of anthropological books out that are giving you a understanding of how this system works from an anthropological point of view. And for me, what anthropology literally means is how they survived and made it
Mm.
to this point, you know, um, especially under the trials and tribulations that they all went through. So we want to see how they survived and how the culture survived. And it's an analysis of that culture. So yeah, those are the few books that I would recommend. Chief Agbola has a good book out. Um, Ayo Salame Ibara Tunum was a wonderful writer. Okay, he gave a lot of really good information. Not only did he do the 256 Odu, he also did a series that gave you insight into the lifestyle, the genealogy, the working of the each of the sections of Orisha, and how to look at the differences between Orisha and Orumile and things like that. So those are the few books I would deal with.
Okay, okay. So
Okay.
let me ask you this. What, so sometimes, when you're studying particularly EFI, uh, is there a structural kind of like, usually it's always like the Baba can only do certain things and women can't do other things, or and why is that? Because sometimes it could be a reason why that is. Sometimes it's not always like I can do what you can do. Sometimes it may be a reason.
That is American. That is so American. When we start saying what, we have roles, okay? And when you start looking at different roles, um, men have a role that they play in society. Men have the protective role. Women have the nurturing role. Um, However, you do have in Ifa itself, you have men and women, and they do have to work together. Women have, when you start talking about initiations in Ifa, women, it is the female, the Yanifa, who actually takes the Eshu and they follow the Eshu into the room and start doing initiation. Babalawos are diviners. Yani,
Hold on, she's frozen, y'all. She may have got a call. There you go.
well, yeah, no, that was a text.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay. So yeah, there's folks on trying to get on the other side, but that's okay. I'll call them back. Um,
Okay.
they have their role. Okay. So this is the only thing.
Okay.
Um, there are in that role, there's some things that they can't do. Okay. And that's not that, but that's not much. Women do quite a bit as diviners, as as helping in initiations, working initiations. Uh, Women have roles in this tradition.
All right.
It's not one versus the other. They work together.
Right on. Right on.
Okay. So, all right. And I don't know who.
So you
Okay.
want the dear sisters comments in here? You were trying to read those?
Yeah, I was trying to read the comments. So tell
So
me what
so
this
the
is.
the sister basically said here, this is a beautiful comment. She said, very close to understanding your Ori and this relationship to your destiny is the ability to cultivate discipline. Also to have control over negative emotions, hate, jealousy, envy, fear, envy, etc. Turn those
Mhm.
into love, trust, caring, and character development. This is a great conversation. So,
Okay, that is because when you're working with your Ori, you're working on helping to develop who you are. Okay. Um, to that self-analysis is telling yourself the truth
mm,
more than anything else. Telling yourself the truth. Do you lie to yourself? The one thing that you cannot do is lie to yourself. You can lie to other people, but you cannot lie to yourself.
right on.
So it does. If I am insecure about my life or the things that I've acquired, there's is fear based. And we've learned even through relationships like Iyanla Bazan, we have learned that fear is an acronym for, for false, what is it? False evidence
It's
appearing
appearing
real.
real. Right on.
Yep. Okay, so that tells you that you can travel in your meditations to develop yourself and say, okay, I'm in fear. So what is this that I fear? And start facing it step by step. Why am I insecure? Why am I jealous when I can do the same things? If
Mm-hmm.
I can work out here, and if I don't have the capability to go further, then I can't lie to myself and say, well, why do they have that? I can't have that. We can't do that.
Mm,
We have to look
right
at
on.
things in a realistic. The thing that I love about this tradition is it keeps you on your toes about what you can and cannot do with yourself. Okay.
Mm,
And being honest also helps you to be reliable. Being reliable in life with others and your family. So
mm,
that's one of the major things that I find in this tradition helps. Now, if you have issues, then the next thing that you actually have to look at is, do I have the courage to get help if I have emotional issues?
mm,
And where am I going to get that help from? A good priest will be able to tell you that. And especially with us dealing with so many other isms in this life, okay? That, and especially when you start talking about jealousy and insecurities and
mm,
hatred and other things, those negative issues impact how you work every day, how you see life, how you help yourself. So if we are unable to deal with those emotions, then we need to be able to ask for help. EFOX should be able to tell you through through divination. And also, if you're here in the diaspora, we look at some other issues. We start looking at cultural issues. We start looking, as a priest, I look at that. I look at the
Mm.
culture. I look at, can I deal with this alone through Justify? Which for me, I would say yes, because as far as I'm concerned, E5 is all of that. But if I can't help this person that way, then I also should look at where you can get culturally competent services that will help a person navigate their emotional body and see if they can't get them to see different things about themselves in order to help them function better in the world.
Mm. Right
Okay.
on, right on. So, with the women's role in particular, what is her role in E5?
Okay. Women, according to Ejiobe, women, Arumula in a Jebbe's house, a question was asked, just to go with the story itself without going through the
Mm-hmm.
text of it. A question was asked of a Jebbe, if why wasn't he allowing his daughters to work as he worked, allowed his sons, the Babalaos, to work.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that Arumula taught both his sons and his daughters. He had, with his wife, had a pregnancy, two at the same time, a son and a daughter in his wife's pregnancy. What she did upon giving birth, not what he did upon her giving birth, he started to teach his daughters the exact same thing he taught his sons. He taught them how to divine. He taught them how to see Ifa. He taught them how to do Ebo, sacrifices. He taught them everything together. His firstborn child was female. His secondborn child was male. So they do everything the Babalawo does. Now, do we see things in terms of the icons that we work with? Do women work with Odu in the same capacity? We work in the same vicinity. We
Mm.
don't work with Odu specifically. We work in the same vicinity when you're doing initiations. Men propitiate Odu. Women also work with Ajay, Risha Ajay, because in this house, um, men receive Orisha Odu, which helps them to see spiritually better. Okay. Women we give because they have insight. Okay, and that's another whole story. Um, but I give women Ajay upon initiation.
Okay.
Simply because with Ajay, they need to be able to produce money and wealth. They can help to take care of their families. So this Orisha helps them to take care of their families much better. When I say women have insight, I'm saying that because in Oyekulope, it talks about how a woman was the firstborn child of Oludumare.
Mm.
And because she was Nini Benin, because she was the firstborn child of Oludumare, she was able to have insight. She was developed specifically to marry to the Arumile and give birth to human children. So that was her role because the Arumile were powerful beings that were outside of the human spectrum, physical form. So her job was to mate with the Arumula.
Okay.
All right. And with that, all women have IJ, all women have insight, spiritual sight. And so we're able to, when we're divining, to be able to have that insight help us when we are aligning our energy and our sight with Arumula
Mm.
to divine and see things. As I said, this is a metaphysical system.
Right on.
And being a metaphysical system, we work with Egu. We work with spirits of the dead. We work with Orisha. We work with the Orumile. So there are things that the normal uh, person is not seeing all the time,
Yeah.
even though they have the capacity to. Every human being has the capacity to see spiritually. It's development and how one develops that sight. So I'm the one that does not make I don't like to divide. Well, women can't do this and women can't do
I
that.
get
I
you.
don't do that.
Right on.
Okay, because they'll say, well, she can't touch a Yakin. Well, if Rumula gave his own daughter Yakin to pound, then who are you to tell me what I cannot do in that sense? It's a matter of if we are trained, if we have the education. It's not just, and that's for anyone, whether it's male or female. You
Right on.
have to have the education and the training to be able to utilize these tools and to be able to take that information and give it and impart it to a person, another person, that client or that community that you're working with. And that's
So
key.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So right now on the planet, we're dealing with a lot of traumas that are coming to the surface, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
in our communities. How then do we use that information to really bring about healing? One of the things you talked about women as having powers to heal their community, like to participate
Mm-hmm.
in that. How do we use this spiritual system to do that?
Okay. You have their men in oral, their men in egungun. Okay, they're men, they're women that also work with egungun. They do not wear the costume though. Okay. As a diviner, um, what I'm looking at is if certain verses tell me that there's a problem with this person before me that's on an emotional level. Um, Opunewori is one, okay, where they're having what may appear to be like bipolar symptoms, okay, um, and just using that as an example, or
Mm-hmm.
depression, okay, in Erosundi, you have issues of family discord and
Mm.
how you can deal with that family in a more proactive way. Part of it is being able to speak with them on the mat when you're doing divination about what that problem is about. You're telling them what Ifa is recommending for them. And part of it is also to follow the directives that are inside that dafa, that um divination that's being committed.
Mm.
Okay. So in that you're talking to them about what's going on in their life. You're telling them what Ifa sees. You're telling what Ifa recommends. If there's a both, if there's medicine to be made for that person to take. Now, if you're looking at it from the community perspective, okay, we have issues, really larger issues, when we start talking about we're having police violence. We're having um, violence in our communities from drugs. We're having whatever is wrong trauma wise. When I can remember as a kid, um, I lived on the south side of Chicago. I remember coming out of my house, and one of the major things that traumatized me was walking up on a shooting,
Mm.
and the man was killed, and I'm watching him bleed out. We've called the police. We've helped, to do that. The police get there, and the whole scene is they're laughing over his body. Yeah,
Mm.
and very impersonal, very disrespectful to that person. That was traumatizing for me. Okay. Um, Trauma tells you that you relive a thing over and over and over again in your head.
Mm.
And that at times there'll be triggers that will help, that will have you continually seeing this over and over in your head. So, what are the things that if I would recommend for you not to see that? Elbow is one, medicine may be another. Each person, according to their destiny, is actually different if you're
Mm.
dealing with it from individual basis. Community, there's some things we can do. From a community perspective, we can, from an EFA community perspective, there's nothing that's, if in Ife, in Ile every year they bring out Odu. Every year they march Odu through the communities. Every year they've already did DAFA to tell you what's wrong in the community. And what they're doing from there is to help you in the community heal, bringing out certain things. There's individual DAFA that takes place every year. Okay, but for the traumatic circumstances, say there's been a flood in a community, say there's been fires. Like down here in Arizona, we have a lot of forest fires, and a couple of years ago, we had about 9 people that were killed
Mm.
in one clean sweep. So, how does the community heal from that? They bring our deities bring solace. Our deities bring uh, information and solutions to the problem. When we start talking about worship, then this is another avenue where we can actually help in people understanding what it is to worship. You can, our community also can bring out or feed oral. They can also bring a gungun out into the communities. With a gungun, it's your ancestors being brought to the community to speak to the community about community issues. Um, so that's another mechanism that would be able to be used for that. The bottom line is that there are priests that need to divine about it, find out the best that mechanism to work with for the trauma for that community, and then start to do the work. Work is educating the people as well as giving them enough, giving them the solace to help with the trauma itself. So you got a lot of stuff that components that can go with that.
Okay, so a dear sister asks, can you speak a little more to training and how training is different from initiation?
Oh, gee.
Great question.
Okay. I love that one. Okay. Training and education in IFA is where it starts long before you get initiated. Okay. It starts when you are coming to an elay You're learning how to worship. In that worship, you're also learning verses. You're learning how to um, feed and bring service to that Orisha, that icon that you have, Eshu, Ogun. You are your Ifa. You're learning how to work with those deities. Okay. From there, you're learning. You should be learning the signatures of the Odus, the names, what they mean, where they came from, the townships that they came from. You should be learning about how they function. Okay. That's your education. And the education continues. When initiation is only so that you work at a higher level of your training. You're going to always be in training. You're going to always, if you're in this, you're going to always seek an academic education, a spiritual education, and how to function with that Orisha, with your Rumule on a day-to-day basis. When you are initiated, it just gives you permission to work with it in a different capacity. But that initiation does not make a community priest. Now, a community priest is different. Someone who is going to just be initiated, it's going to take a while. It should take at least 7 years or more for them to actually get in and do the work. Okay. 5 in the least, 7, and then they should be supervised. You're always going to be supervised. You always should have a community of priests that you actually, elders that you actually work with, that will tell you, well, you can do this, do this, do this, and do that. You should always have those supervisors, so to speak, on how to do more in your priesthood. Community priests, that's what you do. Now, initiation can also provide that you get a better career. You can use it for your career. You don't have to have godchildren. You don't have to set up an edifice for a temple or anything like that. You should only do that if that is what it was said in your destiny reading from the very beginning. Some people, this is all they're supposed to do. Some people get initiated just to have a family because they needed to have that alignment in order for them to have a family. It does not make them a community priest. They should be able to have their elders say, you got the code, you got the stamp of approval. You can go out and you can be a community priest. If they don't have their elders' permission, they don't need to be out there. Simply because you are working with somebody else's life, somebody else's destiny. And if you don't know, don't hurt another human being.
Right on.
Okay? And that's the gist of it. You have to be able to do that kind of work and also be that honest and truthful with yourself and with others. Don't just jump out because I got initiated and I'm ready. No, you're not ready. You have to actually have your elders say it's okay to be out here because you do not want to hurt a person's life.
Right on.
Okay.
Right on. Iya said in here, initiation is an event, priesthood is a process.
Continuous process. It's a work in progress. So that's literally all it is. If you are going to be in this then again, the process is constantly working toward the goal of knowing and knowing more and knowing more and scratching for the knowledge and the wisdom. Because if you're not hungry for this as a community priest, you have to be hungry. You want to know all the time what is the best way. How best can I serve you, Arumula? How best can I serve you, Oludumare? Am I doing good service? What next do I need to do? If you can't answer those questions, then you're not doing your job. You have to be hungry. And that's the main for me. I was hungry. I'm still hungry. I'm starving. You know, there's more for me to know. I've seen a lot, but there's so much more for me to know. And that's what I'm saying is that you want to be able to do that in this kind of priesthood. Um, it's if I know this medicine, well, what else do I need to know? You need to know the botany. You need to know the plants. You know, why would you take a tree that's poisonous, and put it in a medicine? If you don't know, you don't know. Don't do that. So you want to learn the plant life because that's part of what we do. Those
Mm-hmm.
medicines. We need to understand the science.
Right on.
Okay. So with that, I think that going back to trauma is more than just trauma. I think that for me, when I went to IFA because this was some years ago, but I wanted to know if it was advantageous for me to couple mental health understanding with my priesthood. And it was the father gave me permission to actually go back to school. So I'm still learning EFI information, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
going back to school to learn counseling. And so I went back and got a master's in counseling and started doing internships. Then I did my started into the doctoral program for pastoral counseling because one of the things that I found seeing some priests in their work was they didn't know how to talk to people. They had a very opinionated way and a very caustic way, very blaming and unkind way, or cussing people out, or
Mm-hmm.
saying things that were inappropriate for a religious setting. Because no matter what we do, this is still a religious setting. There's a reverence that we have to have for Ludmar and Ifa when we are presenting ourselves to clients or to godchildren or to the public. We have to have that in mind that when I sit here on this mat, that this is a rumula here. So I'm not going to treat you with unkindness, with words that are going to hurt you. So part of what that was about was being able to find insight into their psyche, insight into the Ori. What is making this person tick on that side? So it gave me a little bit more of an ability to see into their personalities. And
Right.
with that, I had better access to asking Ifa questions about what was going on in this person's life. And
Right.
that helped tremendously. And I always recommend that, if you don't know, then take a counseling course. Take something that's going to help you communicate with people in a way that they're going to be at ease with
Right
sharing
on.
your life and their problems.
Right
Because
on.
my understanding is to with this other person over here, they're coming because they need help. They're not coming because they just want to be there. They're
Mm.
coming there because they got questions that are on their heart.
Right on.
So I need to be able to see that person as a person that's hurting, you know, and need something to move their life forward. And that's the bottom line of why I did did the work that I did.
Right on.
It's not necessarily for everyone, okay, but for me, that's what I found that I needed to do because I wanted to do that to
So,
enhance what I did as a priest.
so a question from the room says, so Iya, at what time, at what moment, sorry, did you receive your Orisha pots, and when is it time to get initiated?
Okay, at what moment is like it's individual.
Okay.
Okay, for me, I can tell you about for me, and then pretty much what I do as a practice. It really comes from the divination that's being done. Okay, it's not, oh, I think you need Ashura. Oh, I think you need Shanghai. No, it has to come out of what your Ori is telling Ifa about what you need because you inculcated that into your destiny. And
Mm.
so that should be coming out on that mat. Okay, because really, this is the beauty of this is that your Ori, your soul, is giving this
Mm.
information to Ifa. And this information from Ifa is coming on the mat, and you're telling the person whose soul is telling that information about what his soul is telling. And so Orisha pots should come if they have prescribed for that, as it's going to help you in your life before you go to initiation. But pretty much, I wouldn't give that other than if this was called for in Dafa.
Right on.
Okay. Or does that help them? Because if that,
No, we'll see because they're going to type the answer. Another question was, as a female owl, what is the best way to navigate this male-dominated process? I.e., women in E5 is only a construct post-feminism.
oh God, I love it. I love that. One, no Ifa. More than anything else, no Ifa. See, it's not a fight. It doesn't have to be a fight at all. Um, I don't, I know for me, um, I've had folks say, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. Okay, but I know what the oracle tells me. I know what Odu Ifa says. So if I know Ifa, and this is the information Ifa has given me, and says, okay, well, you can do this, then what's the argument?
Mm.
There's a saying about meeting a fool. Uh, you meet a fool with silence.
Mm.
Period.
I like that. Mm.
So navigating it means that you don't get in your feelings. You know Ifa. If it gets too personal or they're doing things to disrupt your destiny, then what you do, you go back to your Ifa. You go back to your Orisha. You communicate with them through divination and find out what they want you to do so that this can be just the blowing in the wind of a leaf. Okay. Or that person has to meet experiences that will help them change their mind about how they deal with women.
Mm.
That's another way. See, because sometimes you have to ask if a person is in this male dominated world, if who hurt their heart. So sometimes the first person that hurts your heart, if for a man, is his mama. And for a woman can be her daddy. So we have to start addressing those issues too.
Yeah.
If they're jumping up and down about this is what we do. That's because there's something in this. Okay.
That's real talk. That's real talk. That I
So
chuckled because that made me think of someone, so it made me chuckle. Woo! That's real talk.
yeah.
Absolutely real talk. So in my wrap up question, Iya, first of all, you're just incredible. So I can listen to you talk all day. Because I just
Oh,
like being
thank
fed,
you.
you know what I mean? And things that make you think and ponder. And the way you talked about the tradition and women's roles in it, and because we do live in a pretty toxic time where you have to kind of navigate past people. But here you come with the ancient wisdom of when you said you meet a fool with silence, that was just like that there's even no argument in that.
No, it ain't.
Like you know what I mean? You can't even, and I think sometimes we miss that ancient art of not giving people our energy. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like when you think of the days that our ancestors survived. I think they didn't survive arguing all. It's like, look, I know who I really am. I don't need you to tell me who I am. I know who I am.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so I
Thank you.
think sometimes we need to really hear that. And in our wrap up and in our closing, what do you, hmm, what wisdom could you impart to us about making your path stronger or staying on your path? Because in this tradition, it's not like it's like a church on every corner or a mosque on
Right.
every. So you really have to find your
Mm-hmm.
own way. This is root work. I mean, this is
Yep.
not something that's just paid for you. You just going along like Dorothy on the yellow brick road. It really doesn't work like that.
Oh God, yeah. One of the things that Ifalolo ni Ifalolo na Ifalolo tu and Pelue. Arumi Loni Jo Merinu Sadaye. It is the road that I have, that my ancestors have paved out for me. It is the road my Ori has set out for me. The destiny. The thing that I find that I would say for people is that you worship Ifa. You know Ifa. It has to be in your heart and your mind and your spirit. It again, it's not the rabbit in the hat and the genie that's going to things that you're working from. What's your destiny? Knowing that will help your path in this. It's not a contest. It's
Mm,
not something that everybody, competition.
mm,
Okay. It's something to learn, worship, understand, and make a part of your life. It's your lifestyle. When you do that, and the competition brings in those things of what's right, what's wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong.
mm,
Um, it's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to lift each other up above all misfortune. We're supposed to pray for our children. We're supposed to teach our children. If you're teaching your children, you're teaching yourself too. If you are being kind in this rather than judgmental,
mm,
these things help your walk. You find that when you worry about something, all you're doing is worrying.
mm,
It's not going to change it. So walk through this without it. Start looking at, where's my faith at? Ask yourself those questions. When you're
mm,
faced with situations that are toxic, you do what's
mm,
best with that by bringing that kind of level of understanding within yourself. It doesn't have to be emotional. You know, um, like I said, when people jump up and down in your face and stuff like that, it's like just walk away.
I know.
Sometimes it's just that easy. So it's about understanding and walking with a Rumula all the time in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, and it's about loving. It is really about loving this. Because if you don't love God, why are you in it? You know, if you're
Mm.
not looking for a better understanding of a relationship with a God, why are you in this? You want to be able to think about that. You know, that's what I want in my life. I want the love. I want the joy. I want to be able to laugh and kick my heels up and say, "Oh, this feels good." I wake up every morning thanking Ifa. And before I go to bed, I thank my Ori for being good to me, my own head for being good to me and helping me make good decisions. You want to do that because otherwise you make big mistakes that can be costly. In this tradition, you can. Or in life, period. So that's, those are the things that I would say for anyone coming into this and people who are already here.
Mm.
Get out of our egos. We should only
Right.
have enough ego to put our hat on
Mm.
and start to love Ifa. And that's it. You gotta love this.
I know.
Otherwise, why do it? You know?
Yeah. Iya, thank you so much. Like, you made my morning. You made my
Thank
day. Like,
you.
I'm so grateful to just be in your presence. And thank you so much. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you because I'm in Phoenix at least twice a year. So, if
Girl,
I
come
got
on by.
interest.
You can still, you ain't got to go to no hotel. Come by here.
Okay, I'm definitely going to come by. Patty, I'll be talking with you again soon. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you, sisters and brothers, family. Thank you for tuning in on Traditional Tuesdays. This is how we reclaim our African selves by listening to those great elders.
That's great.
Bring the information, bring the wisdom, and then we move accordingly. Thank you so much, E. I'll be talking with you soon.
Okay. Odabo.
Audible.